Hey friends, it's Miss Belkett coming at you from my desk in the back of Mr. Morshauser's room. For number 1, just remember that the rule for writing a decimal as a fraction is just to say it. So the first one is 5/10. But then since we want it in simplest form, that could be simplified to 2/5. And the same thing for number 2, 7/10. And that's in simplest form already. To say number 3 out loud, you would say 33/100ths, which is also in simplest form already. And number 4, you would say 875,000ths, which can be simplified, but we're okay with you leaving it just like that. Remember the second rule for numbers 5 through 8. When you're writing a fraction as a decimal, or a mixed number as a decimal, you're going to divide the top by the bottom. So for number 5, 77 divided by 200, if you type that into your calculator, you will get 385 thousandths. For number 6, 1 divided by 20 will give you 5/100ths. For number 7, 12 divided by 75 will give you 16/100ths. And for number 8, you can take 21 divided by 40 to give you 0.525 or 525 thousandths. And then you have to remember to add your 8 from the mixed number, which will give you 8.525. Number 9 is pretty similar to the last one. Remember to change your mixed numbers into fractions. You need to divide the top by the bottom. And in this case, you will add 87 to 24 divided by 25. So 24 divided by 25 is 0.96. Then when you add 87, you will get 87.96 for Mercury's answer. To figure out the number of days for Venus, you would take 224 and add on 7 divided by 10, which would give you 7/10, which equals 224.7. And then finally for Mars, you would take 686 plus 49 divided by 50, and if you type that into your calculator, you'll get 0.98. So your final answer is 686.98. So for number 10, because it's a mixed number, we're going to be adding this 1 to whatever we change the decimal into. So we can start by saying 1 plus. And then to change a decimal to a fraction, we just say it, right? So 64/100ths. But at this point, it says in simplest form. So we know that we can change 64/100ths and break that down to something smaller. So I know that I can take 64 and divide it by 4, which would give me 16. And I still have to do the same thing to the bottom. 100 divided by 4 is 25. So now we have 16/25ths as our fraction, and we need to add that 1. So our final answer is 1 16/25ths. So in order to find what fraction of a pound each ingredient is, we need to look at the amounts over here in the table, and those are in decimal form. So to change a decimal to a fraction, we say it. So 35/100ths for the first one. So we'll put M for meat. However, that can also be simplified. So if we divide both the numerator and the denominator, the top and the bottom of the fraction by 5, you would get 7/20ths. So that's the fraction of a pound. All right, let's check out vegetables then. We're going to take 15/100ths, which can also be simplified if you divide the top and the bottom by 5 into 3/20ths. And the secret sauce would be 5/100ths, which we can break down, divide both of those by 5 into 1/20th. looks like bread is going to be the same fraction too. That's also 5/100ths, or 1/20th. So these are your fractions of a pound for each ingredient. So in order to find out how much more meat is in the sandwich than vegetables, we need to find the difference between the two. So for meat, we have 35/100ths of a pound, and vegetables, we have 15/100ths. Now I know that 35 minus 15 is 20, so this would give me 20/100ths. And then our directions say to write our amount as a fraction. So when we have a decimal, we say it out loud, 20/100ths. It's also asking for the fraction in simplest form, so we would divide both the top and the bottom by 20, and we would get 1/5. In order to find the total weight, we're going to add up the amounts for all of our ingredients. So 35/100ths plus 15/100ths plus 5/100ths plus another 5/100ths. And this will give us 60/100ths, or 6/10ths. So again, if we're going to write that decimal as a fraction, we would say it out loud, 60/100ths. And like I said earlier, we can simplify that to 6/10ths. And we can simplify our answer one more time to equal 3/5. Oops, and don't forget your label. 3/5 of a pound is what the question's asking. So remember our say it out loud rule for number 19 through 21. And you would get 65/100ths. You can simplify that down by dividing both by 5, the top and the bottom, to 13/20ths. Number 20 is a little bit trickier. So for this one, if you say that out loud, you would get 425/1000ths. So we'll let you leave that one as is. So the same rule works for mixed numbers too. So if you're saying number 21 out loud, you would say 9 and 35/100ths. But then we can simplify this down to, if you divide both of those by 5, 9 and 7/20ths. So to change these fractions into a decimal, we need to divide the top by the bottom. So 19 divided by 25 is 0.76, or 76/100ths. 311 divided by 500 is 0.622, or 622,000ths. 5 divided by 8 is 0.625, or 625,000ths. And then for 25, 3 divided by 5 is 0.6, and then we need to add on our 14. To 14.6. To change this decimal to a fraction, I would say it out loud and get 85/100ths. And then it asks for this answer in simplest form, so I would divide both the top and the bottom by 5 and get 17/20ths. And when we're changing a mixed number, like the one in number 27, to a decimal, we need to divide the top by the bottom. So 3 divided by 8 is 0.375. Then we add on our 23 to get 23.375, or 23 375,000ths. For number 28, we first need to figure out how much fencing Alan has already used. So we would add 5.9 to 10.3 to get 16.2 yards. This is the amount that he's already used. So to find out what Alan has left, we need to subtract 16.2 from 20, which is what he had in the beginning. So 20 minus 16.2 equals 3.8. This is the amount that remains. So finally, it's asking us to write this amount remaining as a fraction in simplest form. So again, we would just say this out loud. 3 8/10. But then that can be simplified even farther to 3 4/5 if you divide both 8 and 10 by 2. So for number 29, 9 out of 15 can be written as 9 divided by 15, or 9 over 15. And expressing this rate as a decimal, we would divide 9 by 15 and get an answer of 0.6, or 6/10.